But if you organise an agency around that type of process, then you're enormously inhibited in what you actually do. So what we would say is, don't limit yourself. Look at more fundamental creativity, the kind of creativity that is applied at a business model level, or is applied to a product level, or a sales strategy, or a distribution strategy. Consider what an idea even might constitute, as opposed to trying to define the advertising idea. What is a really, 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 really big idea? I'm going to show you what we think creativity is in a minute. And of course, if you can do all of that, then you have far greater relevance and far greater resonance with the consumer. So my whole thing is redefine creativity, embrace it, empower everybody, and then try and figure out how to organize around it. So this is creativity. Whoever came up with customers who bought this also bought this is an incredibly creative person. They will not be going to Cannes. They will not be picking up awards at D&AD, but they did make somebody billions of dollars. And that is a new piece of thinking. I'm going to give you lots of examples very fast now. This is obviously a Kickstarter where the business model itself is creative. It's fundamentally creative. Join in, this is how the money's raised, kick the project off. How much is an album worth? That's a really interesting approach to pricing strategy. Is that not creative? Is that not creative? How about the idea of making the headphones white? Even if they're not Apples, I presume they're Apples, and even if it's not connected to an Apple player, I presume it is. It's a genius piece of branding and a genius piece of thinking. The idea of taking a single product and turning it into effectively a regime. Great idea here, rounding up all that crappy change you're tempted to throw away every time something costs $5.99 or $3.95, nicking up the spare coins you don't care about, creating it in a savings account. That is creativity applied to a client's business. This is solving a real problem in terms of prescriptions and figuring out usefully how to help people through the maze that medicine offers. This is really smart, and everybody is seeing much more of this. Johnson & Johnson create their own audience. They create something that is useful. Branded utility would be Johnny's term. It's not a message, it's genuinely useful to their audience. They gather millions of people, and they then have the ability to talk to them, to speak to them in their own channel. Ultimately getting to the point where Procter & Gamble are paying Johnson & Johnson to advertise on their site. Pretty good. Obviously, everybody knows this. This is a useful service. Many people would rather have done this than have written an ad. When I go to the airport and I have no power, if Samsung have supplied power, I think that is a major contribution, far greater than a piece of advertising as I walk down the hall, seeing smiley people waving at me with more phones in unbelievable situations. The dreaded QR codes. Here's the first and only use I can think of that's actually pretty damn smart. The notion of standing waiting for your subway and shopping so that it's delivered without having to carry it. I don't mind that. That's pretty good. That's definitely worth exploring. Partnerships. The notion of checking in and immediately getting discounts, rewards, bonuses. If I can buy tickets at Ticketmaster and know where my friends are because of a relationship between Facebook and Ticketmaster, great joy. I can choose to be with them or choose not to be. In retail, we all know this is super powerful. Sales strategy, 12 o'clock, guilt. Our office virtually comes to a grinding halt. It's deeply irritating. But basically, you have built up pent-up demand at 12 o'clock. You know there are fabulous offers, and you are driving your audience because of the smartness in your strategy of how to sell. And the use of Twitter, which we're all fumbling for, in a valid way for customer service, which is working really well. So, that is what we think creativity, and anything and everything that comes from that. The notion of having a company built around, I need to walk upstairs and brief the creative department on a traditional creative brief, when I want any and all of that, is just almost ridiculous if you say it out loud. If you think about how you can help a client, and you think about the number of different ways you can contribute to what their business is trying to achieve, it's so much richer. It's a better job. I'd rather work in there. I can still do the great big ads as well, because sometimes they're the thing to do. But there's so much more territory to play with. There are some implications, and as I said, we don't have all the answers on this, and we are stumbling towards some of them. Five or six. Marketing is not the same as communications. And there's a lot of people who work in the communications department that is not the same as solving some of the business problems. So marketing needs to get as far back into the business as possible so they can impact the product, the pricing, the distribution, and the comms. It may be too late to have walked in with a comms brief. The problem can be more fundamentally solved by going further back. Linear baton-passing behaviour between disciplines or agencies is too simplistic and too slow. One of the most difficult things at the moment is when you open your mind to the nature of a solution is the process is way harder to write down. Again, I used to sit there a million years ago and I could plot 6 months, we'd have 4 weeks to think about it, 4 weeks to faff around and research, we'd have 12 weeks to make it ad, do a bit more research. It was all incredibly structured. It doesn't look like that anymore. It's way more collaborative, it's way more iterative. But still, some of the ways agencies work together or inside an agency works, that it doesn't reflect what's possible or the real world. Silos are a massive problem, massive problem. If you're in the situation where you're trying to defend the answer because it's what you do, it means you're no longer open to a better answer. The most difficult thing here, though, which I think is a challenge, is the best people able to share and collaborate have got the highest talent and the lowest ego. Now that's a pretty hard one. There's loads of low talent, high ego, and there's loads of high talent, high ego. But high talent, low ego, so you can say, you know what, your idea is way better than mine. I know you're an intern. I know you've been here 3 minutes, but that is a cracking good idea, and we should go with that. And finding people able to collaborate, or say, you know what, we can come up with that. The partner agency came up with it. It's a better idea. Let's rally around their idea. You need a different type of mentality. You need more collaboration, less ego. Open-minded people are capable of having big ideas. That has to include the client, has to include the engineer, has to include the product development guy, has to include absolutely anybody. People say this, but it is quite hard to allow it to happen. And finally, and the most difficult one, agencies have to decide how to apply their creativity. Are they being creative about their client's business, or are they being creative in their client's business? As I said, how to organise, what the right process is, how to get the right talent to behave is actually quite difficult. But from our point of view, we should not stop seeking a higher goal, a more powerful tool, just because it's difficult. On our wall, we've basically nicked another quote. A reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. All progress depends on the unreasonable man. And there is that drive and unwillingness to compromise and a push to have a bigger and better idea. And from our point of view, as I said, it makes the job interesting. It makes it difficult, but it's way more interesting to go somewhere for 12 hours a day. Thank you very much.